Om Agyanatmanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vasakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchina Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Prishuvana Sudhadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations, Text 44. Tatra kirtayato vipra viprasya bhuri tejasa aham chadyagamam tatra nivishtastat anugrahat soham vak shravayishami yataditam yatamati tatra kirtayato vipra viprashya bhuri tejasa aham chadyagamam tatra nivishtastanugrahat soham va shravayishami yataditam yatamati.
Soham Vakshravaya
Soham va shapayishami. Yataditam yatamati. Tatra. There. Kirtayata. While reciting. Vipra. O learned brahmanas. Vipra Rishi. From the great Brahmana Rishi. Puri, greatly. Tejasa, powerful. Aham, I. Cha, also. Adyagamam, could understand. Tatra, in that meeting. Nivishta, being perfectly attentive. Tat anugrahat, by his mercy. Saha, that very thing. Aham, I. Va, unto you. Shravayishami, shall let you hear. Yata aditam, yatamati, as far as my realization. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam, there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus by his mercy I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I should try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. Purport. Or please repeat. O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam, there, in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. Purport. That's good repeating. One can certainly see the presence of Lord Shri Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. If one has heard it from a self-realized soul like Shukadeva Goswami. One cannot, however, learn Bhagavatam from a bogus, hard reciter whose aim of life is to earn some money out of such recitation and employ the earning in sex indulgence. No one can learn the Srimad Bhagavatam who is associated with persons engaged in sex life. That is the secret of learning Bhagavatam. Nor can one learn Bhagavatam from one who interprets the text by his mundane scholarship. One has to learn Bhagavatam from the representative of Shukadeva Goswami and no one else. If one at all wants to see Lord Shri Krishna in the pages, that is the process, and there is no alternative. Sutta Goswami is a bona fide representative of Shukadeva Goswami because he wants to present the message which he received from the great learned Brahmana. Shukadeva Goswami presented Bhagavatam as he heard it from his great father, and so Sutta Goswami is presenting Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Shukadeva Goswami. Simple hearing is not at all. One must realize the text with proper attention. The word nivishta means that Sutta Goswami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. That is the real process of receiving Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. And no one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or another, if one hears with rapt attention from the right person at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Sri Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam. As in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled, Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So the text again. Tatra kirtiyato vipra viprashira bhuri tejasa aham jadyagamam tatra nivishtas tadanugrahat soham va shravayishami yatadikatam yatamati. O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam, there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy I learned the Bhagavatam from the great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I realized it. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarna. Actually, Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita in 1857 that after we've accepted that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, then the next question should arise, how to utilize Krishna's energies in his service. So that's called abhideya. First is sambandha. Sambandha is to understand and accept that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And abhideya is, how should I utilize Krishna's energies in Krishna's service? So, Prabhupada writes that if one hears Krishna was speaking to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, telling him what to do. Now, right now we're not on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Krishna is not directly before us, telling us what to do. But Prabhupada said if one hears from Krishna in this book, as well as from the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. When Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, that was eternal. In other words, if we remember the Bhagavad Gita, we're actually hearing from Krishna directly. It is not that Bhagavad Gita is some ordinary book and we hear the instruction and whoever gave the instruction is long gone and the instruction has nothing to do with what we're presently engaged in. If one actually hears from the Bhagavad Gita, then one is hearing directly from Krishna. We could say we're hearing from Krishna within the heart, but then Krishna within the heart is Krishna. It's not that Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago, and it just so happens he happens to be in our heart right now, and it's a different Krishna. No, the very same Krishna who spoke Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago happens to be speaking to us right now within the heart. Whether we bother listening to him or not, that's a different thing. Whether we recognize that this is actually Krishna speaking to me and take it seriously, that's another thing. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham ridi sanivishto matak smritir jnanam apoanam cha. It's not that Krishna spoke to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. He left this planet, Krishna Swadharma Upagavate Jnana Dharma Jnana Jabi Saha Kalo Nashta Drishamesha Paranarako Dunoditaha. This is one of the questions by the sages of Namasharanya. The Krishna Swadharma Upagavate. Krishna has left this planet. Apparently he's left. Krishna Swadharma Upagavate. He left for his own abode. And along with him, Dharma Jnana Jabi Saha. He took with him religion and knowledge. Real knowledge. Kalo Drisham Para. Krishna Swadharma Upagavate. Dharma Jnana Jabi Saha. Kalo nashta drishamesha, and therefore darkness has descended in this universe, if not especially on this planet. Paranarko dunodita. Therefore the Bhagavatam has arisen just like the sun to enlighten us. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is not different from Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's direct instructions from Krishna himself personally to Arjuna on the battlefield Kurukshetra, and we're more or less on a battlefield. Battlefield, of course, no one's throwing a Brahmastra at us yet because people don't know how to manufacture Brahmastras. If they knew how to manufacture Brahmastra, we'd probably have a few thrown at us already. But we're on a battlefield trying to elevate ourselves out of the death-like state of material existence to the reality of spiritual experience. Therefore, in order to do that, Krishna is giving us direction how we can win the battle against the illusory energy and come to our natural state of consciousness. Therefore, Krishna is giving instructions to Arjuna, and when we hear them from Krishna within the heart, because he's giving us remembrance, it's exactly the same as hearing from Krishna on the battlefield Kurukshetra. Now, of course, we may not understand what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, or it may seem irrelevant when we remember something from Bhagavad Gita. And indeed, it may be not as relevant as other verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one should also hear from Krishna's representative to try to understand what Krishna is telling us, or if he's actually telling us something. Then that's as good as hearing from Krishna on the battlefield Kurukshetra. Of course, who's a representative of Krishna? Here it says that there are different degrees of representation. We have the acharyas, such as Srila Prabhupada, who, when he was looking in his heart, well, whenever he was always looking in his heart, but anyhow, he was directly associating with Krishna personally. When Prabhupada was being interviewed by one reporter, and the reporter asked him, does Krishna or God speak to you? And Rameshwar Prabhu, who was Prabhupada's acting as secretary, said, well, Krishna is in the heart, he gives remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And that way Krishna is speaking to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, no, actually Krishna is directly speaking to me. Now if Krishna can speak to us through the super soul in our heart, why can't he speak to his pure devotee directly? Is there some law against that Krishna has to obey? Or do we think that, Prabhupada was just an ordinary person like us, and therefore the same way Krishna speaks to us, he's going to speak to Prabhupada? Maybe Prabhupada was a pure devotee, maybe he wasn't, or maybe pure devotees get the same treatment as ordinary devotees. Whether you're in first class or economy class, you get the same treatment. But at least in our society, we're supposed to theoretically accept that Krishna was speaking directly to Prabhupada. Otherwise, if he's just like us, why read his book? And what should be the result? Now, we may or may not accept Krishna as the proprietor of everything. As a matter of fact, to a large extent, we probably don't accept Krishna as the proprietor of everything. Just like in the Nectar of Instruction, there was one sage called Adichi. Adichi was a very learned, advanced devotee of Krishna and a great sage who was going through great austerities. And Indra, he was defeated by the demons. And therefore he took his spiritual master, Vishwarup. But Vishwarup was a double agent. And half of his family were the demons, and half of his family were demigods. And therefore, although he became the priest of the demigods, because Brihaspati had disappeared because Indra had offended his spiritual master, and therefore Brihaspati just disappeared. And because, whether we like it or not, or we know it or not, unless we have faith in the spiritual master, then we don't really make any spiritual advancement. Now, faith in the spiritual master doesn't mean blind faith. It means that faith in the instructions coming down in simple succession, and therefore being willing to follow them, understand what they are. Of course, we should also be convinced that when anyone speaks, including our initiating spiritual master, that what he's saying is actually coming from Krishna. If we have doubts, then we should clear them up. It's not that we put them aside and we become a blind follower. Blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned, according to Prabhupada. One should not only hear submissively, one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiries. So inquiries are also allowed to clear things up so that we become convinced that this is actually Krishna's instruction. And if it is Krishna's instruction, what does it mean to me personally or practically? So Krishna consciousness is not blind following. And we shouldn't waste our time with absurd inquiries, things that are just wasting our time and wasting the spiritual authority's time. We should be serious about asking the spiritual authority, if we actually think they're a spiritual authority, something that's going to be practical and help me advance spiritually. Otherwise, if we have some other questions, that's also allowed. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? We can also inquire from someone who knows as a weather forecaster. When Prabhupada was sick, apparently, in 77, people would come and they'd always inquire from Prabhupada, how are you? Prabhupada's on his bed, he can hardly talk. And Prabhupada said, they're coming and ask me, how are you? When he's supposed to tell them, oh, I'm great. So people want to waste time. Even they approach a spiritual, saintly person like Srila Prabhupada, they want to waste time because they're in the mundane consciousness. They don't know how to take advantage of the association of a pure devotee, such as Prabhupada, because they're too used to dealing with materialists. They don't know what the value of a pure devotee is. That if they can just hear his sound vibration, then they, especially about some topic that's really relevant to their lives, they can actually they can make so much progress in spiritual life. So, the sound vibration of a pure devotee who's actually realized the knowledge is different from just an ordinary devotee who's even aspiring to understand the philosophy, has understood it to some extent, and therefore Krishna is able to reveal deeper meanings through such a devotee in proportion to their own spiritual realization. If Krishna hasn't revealed the mysteries of his understanding, it is not, then one can only, or in proportion to the Krishna is revealing the mysteries of his understanding, to that extent one can reveal the mysteries to others. Of course, if one's not interested in the mysteries of understanding Krishna, then that's all right, you can approach anyone, including but one will not get any spiritual benefit from such inquiries or from approaching the wrong people. So one should hear from the right authority and ask the right questions. And here probably at the end he explains what the right questions are. That how will my mind come to the platform of rapt attention? Rapt attention on Krishna. Otherwise, our minds are floating from ignorance to passion, sometimes to goodness, a little bit of transcendence, and then back into ignorance. So this material world means we're going up and down in our experience like a roller coaster. Sometimes we're in heaven, sometimes Yamaraj is looking for us in hell, can't even find us. We're so deeply involved in it. And sometimes we're in passion. We're in some romance somewhere in the heavenly planets. And sometimes we're in goodness. We're peeling potatoes in the kitchen or something. With a little halo over our heads. And sometimes we're in the spiritual world. We're remembering Krishna. We're actually experiencing some pleasure, some spiritual bliss in the activities of pure devotional service. But we're supposed to be in the spiritual world forever. We're not supposed to be, we don't have a temporary visitor card to the spiritual world. That's not what we're looking for. With a stopover in the heavenly planets. When we come back, then some apsara is waiting for us, asking, how was it? No, we're supposed to be there forever. And how to come to there forever? How to hear Krishna with rapt attention. In other words, as much as we can pay attention, then we enter into Krishna consciousness. It's difficult, because Maya is always talking to us. We have no better friend in the material world than Maya. Or enemy, depends how you look at her. If we look at her as our friend, then why bother conquering her? Therefore Krishna says, Udarad Atmanatmanam, Atmanam Avasarayat, Atmaiva Yatmano Bandura, Atmaiva Ripur Atmana. That a person has to elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For one has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a person, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, all the same. So when the mind is thinking about Krishna, she becomes our best friend. And when the mind is thinking about anything else, she becomes more or less an enemy. And what is the process of hearing, of having the mind in rapt? One has to learn how to hear with rapt attention. If we hear in rapt attention, then later we might remember what we've heard, and that's also hearing again. Therefore, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya says, in the repeated remembrance of this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, I'm taking pleasure and being thrilled at every moment. So Sanjaya heard with such attention that he kept on remembering. Just like if you eat something very good, you might remember it again. Or you have some very nice experience, then you remember it again and again. Someone gives us some praise or some reward or whatever, then we remember that again and again. Or if it's a really horrible experience, some book crashes down on our head and we get 5 stitches, we remember it again and again. So Sanjaya was hearing again and again the same message of Bhagavad Gita because his hair was standing on end. He was so ecstatic hearing it. He was hearing it attentively. And of course, if the sound vibration is very powerful, then we might take it more seriously. We might actually try to listen for one reason or another. Like when Prabhupada, sometimes devotees had experience when he was present, one would feel like he was in Vaikuntha. And therefore one would think, well, maybe I should hear what he has to say. I like to be in Vaikuntha too. By direct experience, when experience the presence of the spiritual world by the presence of one who's bringing the spiritual world there, by his presence. And therefore, one would take more seriously the message, at least at that time, because one would think, well, I would like to be there too. I'd like to stay here in the spiritual world. Because it's so nice to be here. But if somehow or another we can try to hear and even get some idea of how to improve our lives, especially our spiritual life. Then one may take it seriously and apply it within one's life, and therefore become more interested. Let me hear some more, because I've received some meaningful instruction that helped me improve my existence, and I'd like to improve it some more. So to hear from rapt attention, one should hear from the right person with the right attitude. Self-realized soul is recommended here, great self-realized soul like Srila Goswami, but not from a hired person or academic scholar. We can read these academics, somehow or another in our society, we've greatly valued academic scholars for one reason or another, that somehow or another one becomes an authority because he studies the Bhagavatam or any of our books academically. But this is not the qualification, nor are devotees academic scholars supposed to, especially in the devotee community, reveal their academic expertise. That's like adding a drop of poison to the milk. They can utilize their academic expertise in order to show how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to prove that Prabhupada is a pure devotee representative. But when they utilize it to cast doubts in Krishna and his Supreme Representatives, then they're simply misusing their position as so-called academic scholars. Or as Prabhupada said, transcendental realization doesn't come from academic scholarship. Matter of fact, academic scholarship is simply meant to put doubts into people. This is called tarka apratishta, endlessly mentally speculating, never arriving at a conclusion that Krishna is God or we should surrender unto Him. That's the last thing they'll ever decide. All they can decide is that there is no conclusion, we just have to keep on searching and searching forever. And they will search forever if they want to. They can stay here forever searching. But Mahajana Yena Kata Sapanta, one should find out a realized soul, or the most realized soul possible, and try to hear from them how we can make advancement in spiritual life. Otherwise we're just wasting our time. You don't have to, every newspaper, every magazine, every person you ask on the street will give you their directions in life. There's no one on this planet who won't tell you what to do. Even the birds are telling each other what to do. Everyone came here to tell everyone else what to do. 8,400,000 species of life. Probably the trees are telling each other what to do too, where to put their branch. But if we want to hear what to do in order to make spiritual advancement, we have to find the best personalities and utilize our intelligence to see, for spiritual advancement in life, what the different hierarchies are. Then here, if one can find a self-realized person like Srila Goswami or their representatives, and hear from them with seriousness, we could say. We might not use the word rapt attention. We're not rapt anything, we're to speak of attention. We can't even be rapt in even the highest pleasure in the material world was the sex life. We can't even concentrate on that. By the material nature, we can't concentrate on anything. Our minds are so flickering. Even we're eating, we look forward to the big feast, and even when we're eating, we're worried about something in the future. We can't even remember we're supposed to eat with rapt attention. Taste the food. So we can hear if we hear from the real person, that is someone who actually has some knowledge, then simple hearing is not at all. One must realize the text with proper attention. The word nivishta means that Srila Swami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. Once you hear with rapt attention from the real person, then he can at once realize the presence of Krishna in every page. Now, probably none of us are about to do that, see Krishna directly in every page. But we should try to see Krishna at least through his instructions. That means we may not see Krishna holding a flute with a peacock feather, surrounded by his associates when we read the Bhagavatam. That's possible for a very advanced devotee. But we can see Krishna to different degrees. As we surrender to the Bhagavatam, Krishna will reveal himself in different ways to us. Maybe he'll reveal to us through realization, understanding, called eureka. Now I've understood something I didn't understand before. Maybe we'll actually visualize the pastimes in the Bhagavatam. Maybe we'll actually experience something in the Bhagavatam when we're reading it, actually have some feelings of sentiments or just feeling, or even visualization. And maybe we'll actually eventually one day see Krishna, actually be in the pastimes, not just hearing about them, but actually being there. But we have to start where we're at. Bhagavatam is an effort, Bhagavatam is revealed to us both by our own effort of following the instructions and also by the mercy of Krishna. When he sees our effort, he also rewards us for that. Not only for our expertise, also for our effort. So it takes two things: our effort to follow the proper instructions and the proper attitude, and also Krishna's mercy. Without the two, nothing works. Krishna just doesn't bestow his mercy indiscriminately upon everyone except for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then everyone is not willing to take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, is extending to them also. Just like we go on the street, we chant Hare Krishna, not everyone's equally receptive. Some people even cover their ears, they don't want to hear. If you give someone a book, not everyone is praising us for thank you, I was looking for this book. I'm so happy to see that you, maybe once every few years you might meet someone like that. Not everyone's equally receptive because of their past deeds. But if we're receptive and we actually hear from the right person, then but no one can give rapt attention who's not pure in mind. So we have to accept that I have so many desires, and because I have so many desires, therefore I'm going like a yo-yo up and down and without getting a sufficiently higher taste in Krishna consciousness, then we accept the mode of ignorance sometimes is as pleasant as the mode of passion, is as pleasant as the mode of goodness, and as pleasant as being Krishna conscious. We forget immediately when Maya comes and attracts us. Oh, that's all right. Just rest a little bit, because sleeping is actually pleasurable. When we're tired, when we satisfy that desire, we feel good. And we don't, then we don't feel so good. If we're in passion, we want to get something nice to eat, we want to get some nice arrangement, then if we do that, we feel good. Not a long feeling good, but it's temporarily we feel some good. And if we're in goodness, we're clean. If we take a shower, we're a little bit more in goodness. We feel clean. We feel a little good temporarily. We don't run down the street telling everyone I took a shower, I'm in ecstasy, but we feel better. Similarly, when we're in transcendence, depending on the level of taste we get, then we feel good. We feel something superior to even passion, goodness, and ignorance. But unless we're purely Krishna conscious, we forget very easily. Like Daksha, when he was praying to Krishna, he was in ecstasy when Krishna came, riding on the back of Garuda. He had to sit down because he couldn't. He was so ecstatic, feeling so much transcendental pleasure, he could not even stand. But then he forgot immediately. And Krishna said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want unlimited sex life." And then he's back in Maya again. So Maya is very powerful. She can help us forget if we want, immediately. Even when we're in ecstasy for a relative amount of ecstasy, we forget. Even when we make some spiritual advancement, we forget. We take everything so lightly. And then we come back to one of the modes of nature, and then we may want to come back to spiritual life again. That's why we have sadhana. To help remind us that there's such a thing as spiritual life. So our minds may not be pure, but if we practice sadhana and we try to focus our mind on Krishna, sadhana is not just, it's time for Mangalarati, I got to go because then I get an extra check on my sadhana sheet. And when I see the results on the board, that I feel good. Another type of sense gratification. Look, I beat him out this week. Yeah, I showed him or her. No, we're doing it. We have an opportunity to focus our mind upon Krishna. And no one can be pure in mind who's not pure in action. We all know that. As soon as we deviate, we eat a little bit more than we think, well, I don't really have to eat anymore because I'm pretty full. And we say, no, just eat a little bit more. Just a couple more samosas. They're really good. They probably get better when you eat a couple more. Besides that, your worst enemy just ate 3 more than you did. Are you going to allow him to do that? Are you going to take that? Why should he enjoy more than you? Does he deserve it more than you? And then our very active, whatever we're doing, we forget Krishna. No one who can be pure in action is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. So these things are quite important. Not that, this is all mundane, how we eat, how we sleep, our relationship with others, and how we defend ourselves, fearing. These things are very important, because if we don't do them expertly in Krishna consciousness, then we're going to forget Krishna during that, and then we won't be able to have a rapt mind and attention. And therefore we won't realize Krishna when we're hearing the Bhagavatam. We won't experience anything different from what we experience when we read an ordinary book, if our mind is not focused. Therefore, this is the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and we're getting some very, very valuable instructions. It may not be how to dance in the rasa dance or how to play, the veena when you're a gopi or a manjari in the rasa. But these are more valuable for us than any so-called advanced transcendental knowledge. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Kvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.